There are moments in life when everything becomes quiet, no arguments, no explanations, no dramatic endings, just silence. And in that silence, something powerful happens. Truth begins to unfold. Sometimes we spend so much time trying to understand people through their words, but it is only when they become silent that we truly see who they are. Their absence speaks, their distance speaks, and their behavior in quiet moments reveals what they were hiding all along. This is not coincidence. This is not random. This is Allah in His infinite wisdom, showing you what you were unable, or perhaps unwilling to see before. We often spend so much time listening to what people say. We hang on to their promises, we analyze their words, and we let their explanations guide our decisions. We try to read the truth in their tone, in the way they smile, in the way they reassure us, but so often the truth is hidden behind all of that. People are capable of saying what they think you want to hear, and sometimes even convincing themselves that they mean it. But words, as beautiful or convincing as they may seem, do not always reflect reality. The reality is often quiet, subtle, and patient, waiting for the right moment to show itself. It is in the silence, when no one is trying to impress, when there is no performance, when there is no need to manipulate, that the true nature of a person is revealed. In that stillness, you notice the patterns, the absence, the things that were never said, the gestures that never came, the care that never materialized. You begin to see how someone treats others when no one is watching, how they respond when they are not being praised, how their absence communicates more than their presence ever did. It is in the quiet moments, the spaces between the words, the long pauses, and the untouched promises that the real face of a person begins to appear. And sometimes it is so subtle that you almost want to ignore it, almost want to convince yourself that it doesn't matter. But deep down you feel it, the emptiness where loyalty should be, the distance where warmth should be, the indifference where sincerity should be. And Allah, in His perfect wisdom, allows us to witness this truth in silence, because it is in those quiet revelations that we are protected from illusions, guided toward clarity, and taught to trust what is real rather than what is spoken. Sometimes in life, people come close to us, and we think that closeness is a measure of trust, love, or loyalty. We think that the more someone is around, the more we know them, and the more secure we are in their presence. But the reality is that distance can be one of the greatest blessings, even when it doesn't feel like it at first. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, often separates us from people not as a punishment, but as a form of protection. That distance, whether physical, emotional, or even circumstantial, creates space for clarity. It allows us to step back and see things as they truly are, without the distractions of charm, words, or appearances clouding our judgment. Sometimes we cling to people who are not meant for us, who drain our energy, or who carry intentions that are not pure. And it is only when they are removed from our immediate lives that we can breathe, reflect, and understand the reality of the situation. Distance allows us to notice the absence of care where it should have been present, the silence where there should have been reassurance, and the void where there should have been loyalty. It teaches us that not every relationship requires constant presence to be meaningful, and not every absence is a sign of loss. Often, it is a divine intervention guiding us away from harm, protecting our hearts from deceit, and helping us preserve our peace before we even realize we needed it. It is in this separation, in this quiet space, that we are given the opportunity to grow, to strengthen ourselves, and to trust in Allah's timing rather than our own desires or assumptions. Distance becomes a lens through which the truth becomes unmistakable, and what was once confusing or painful begins to make sense in the light of divine wisdom, showing us that sometimes the best thing for our hearts and minds is simply to be apart from what is not meant for us. It is easy for someone to make promises. It is easy for someone to say the right words, to assure you of loyalty, to declare love, commitment, or support. Words come quickly, they are polished, and they are often what we want to hear. But words alone are fragile. They can be shaped, repeated, and even manipulated to create an illusion of sincerity. True character is revealed not in what someone says, but in what they do. Every action, no matter how small, is a mirror of a person's intentions and heart. When a person truly cares, truly respects, truly values you, it shows in their consistency, in their efforts, in the way they prioritize your well-being without you asking for it. It shows in the promises they keep, the trust they honor, the support they provide without seeking recognition. And when actions are absent, no matter how many words are spoken, the truth begins to appear. It becomes clear in the delays, in the excuses, in the lack of effort, in the emptiness behind the smiles and assurances. Allah in His wisdom allows us to witness this, to see that words alone are not sufficient to define a relationship, a bond, or a person's true nature. Actions are the evidence of the heart, they are the proof of what someone truly values, and they cannot be faked for long. In time, even the smallest gestures, or the lack thereof, reveal patterns that speak louder than any speech, louder than any promises ever could, and in that revelation, clarity emerges. It is through observing actions, or noticing the absence of meaningful ones, that we begin to understand who is genuine, who is transient, and who is truly meant to be a part of our lives. There is a natural desire in the human heart to confront, to demand explanations, to seek justice when we feel wronged or deceived. When someone shows us a side of themselves that is disappointing, hurtful, or untrue, our instinct is often to question them, to challenge them, to demand the truth be spoken aloud. But not every exposure requires words. Not every truth needs to be shouted, confronted, or argued about. Sometimes the revelation of a person's character happens quietly, without any need for confrontation, and it is in that quiet that the wisdom of Allah becomes clear. When a person's true nature is revealed through their behavior, their absence, or their silence, it does not require your reaction to confirm what you already see. There is a certain peace that comes from simply observing, from letting events unfold, from stepping back and allowing Allah to reveal what is hidden. Confrontation may satisfy a momentary desire to defend yourself or to seek answers, but it does not always bring clarity, healing, or protection. In fact, rushing into confrontation can sometimes cloud your judgment, entangle you in unnecessary conflict, and distract you from the lessons that are being quietly taught. Allah often allows us to witness the truth in subtle ways, in delayed messages, in unattended promises, in repeated patterns of behavior, so that we can see reality as it is without forcing it through our own efforts. There is wisdom in restraint, in patience, and in trusting that the right people will eventually show their true face through their actions alone. Observing without reacting does not mean weakness. It means that you are allowing clarity to emerge naturally, giving time and distance the chance to expose the reality of a person's heart, and realizing that sometimes the most powerful lessons are learned in silence rather than in confrontation. Life is full of illusions. Sometimes we see people through the lens of what we hope them to be rather than who they truly are. We convince ourselves that certain behaviors are signs of love, loyalty, or care, when in reality, they may be masks, performances, or fleeting gestures. We may cling to these illusions because they bring comfort, because they make the heart feel safe, or because letting go seems too painful. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom, has a timing for everything, including the unveiling of truth. He removes illusions at the precise moment we are ready to see reality clearly, when our hearts are prepared to accept the truth, and when the lessons behind those illusions can benefit us the most. Sometimes this unveiling is gradual, a pause here, a silence there, a pattern that begins to emerge, and sometimes it is sudden, striking, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. What was once hidden behind charm words or appearances becomes visible in ways that cannot be denied, and suddenly, what we believed for so long is revealed to have been false or incomplete. Allah does this not to harm us or to punish us, but to protect us, to guide us, and to free us from attachment to what is not meant for our best. The illusions fall away, and with them comes clarity, the understanding that certain people, certain promises, or certain situations were never truly aligned with our path or with what Allah intended for us. And in that clarity, even though it may sting at first, there is a subtle mercy, a divine wisdom that allows us to step forward with our eyes open, our hearts guarded, and our trust firmly placed in Allah rather than in illusions. Too often, we allow ourselves to become entangled in the need to understand, to analyze, or to demand explanations from others. When someone disappoints us, hurts us, or shows us a side of themselves that we never expected, our first instinct is to seek answers. We want them to justify their actions, to explain their intentions, to ease our minds with words that reassure us. But the truth is, not every answer will bring peace. Sometimes, chasing explanations only drags us deeper into confusion, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. And Allah, in His mercy, teaches us that our inner peace is far more important than the clarity we try to force from others. The world is filled with people who will never explain themselves fully, who will never justify their behavior, or who may never even acknowledge the hurt they have caused. Trying to extract understanding from such people can take away the serenity Allah wants for your heart. True wisdom is learning to let go of the need for validation, to step back from the endless questions, and to protect your heart from the endless cycle of doubt and disappointment. Your peace is sacred, and maintaining it often requires silence, patience, and detachment from what is not meant for you. It requires recognizing that some lessons are revealed not through confrontation or explanation, but through observation, reflection, and trust in Allah's plan. The absence of an answer does not diminish the truth. It only strengthens your ability to rely on Allah, to guard your heart, and to walk forward without carrying unnecessary burdens. In this, you begin to understand that what truly matters is not how someone justifies themselves, but how you maintain your composure, your tranquility, and your focus on what is good, beneficial, and right for your life, rather than being consumed by the need for someone else to be right in your eyes. Letting go is one of the most difficult lessons for the human heart. We hold on to people, relationships, and situations because of the memories, the attachments, or the expectations we have built over time. We tell ourselves that if we just try a little harder, if we just forgive a little more, if we just explain ourselves one more time, things will return to the way we hoped they would be. But sometimes holding on only prolongs the pain, clouds our judgment, and keeps us tied to what was never truly meant for us. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, teaches us that letting go is not a sign of weakness, nor is it a surrender to defeat. It is a conscious act of trust and gratitude. When we release our grip on what is harmful, disappointing, or misaligned with our purpose, we are acknowledging that Allah knows what is best for us, that His plan is greater than our desires, and that our hearts deserve the peace and clarity only He can provide. Letting go allows us to redirect our energy toward what is meaningful, what is righteous, and what brings true benefit to our lives. It is a way of showing gratitude to Allah by trusting His wisdom, recognizing that our value does not depend on someone else's recognition, and understanding that our journey is guided by His hands, not ours alone. In the act of releasing, we find freedom, freedom from the burden of resentment, freedom from the weight of disappointment, and freedom from the endless cycle of hoping for change from someone who was never meant to change for us. It is in letting go that we open our hearts to new blessings, new lessons, and a deeper sense of contentment, realizing that gratitude is not only expressed through prayers and worship, but also through accepting what Allah allows to leave our lives, knowing that His timing, His plan, and His wisdom are always perfect. Life has a way of teaching us patience, even when we do not understand why certain things happen. There are moments when we feel confused, hurt, or even betrayed, and our hearts search for answers that seem elusive. We wonder why people behave in ways that disappoint us, why promises remain unfulfilled, or why our trust seems misplaced. Yet Allah, in His infinite wisdom, reminds us that everything unfolds according to His perfect timing. The truth about people, relationships, and situations is not always revealed immediately because we may not be ready to handle it, and premature knowledge could harm us more than it helps. Sometimes what appears as delay, silence, or emptiness is actually divine protection, a way of preparing us to receive reality without losing our peace. Allah allows us to see patterns slowly, to notice inconsistencies, to witness actions rather than just hear words, so that the lessons settle deeply in our hearts. It is in this period of waiting and observation that we learn patience, discernment, and trust, understanding that every moment of silence is purposeful, every absence is instructive, and every delayed realization is designed to guide us toward clarity. We may feel the weight of uncertainty, but that weight carries wisdom, shaping our hearts to recognize the difference between true sincerity and hollow promises. It teaches us that not every revelation needs to be immediate, that we do not always need to confront every lie or every deceit, and that trusting Allah's timing is an act of faith that preserves our heart and mind from unnecessary pain. In allowing the truth to unfold at the right moment, we are being taught humility, awareness, and patience, qualities that make us stronger, wiser, and more prepared to embrace reality when it finally becomes clear. In life, there is a subtle art to understanding people, and it is not always found in what they say or even in the moments they are present. True discernment comes when we take the time to observe quietly, to reflect deeply, and to watch how someone behaves in situations where they are not being watched or evaluated. Often, our hearts sense something is off before our minds can articulate it, and it is in those quiet instincts, those subtle observations, that Allah begins to teach us lessons about character, intention, and trust. People can perform, they can promise, they can convince, but actions, patterns, and consistency reveal the reality that words often conceal. When we pay attention, we notice the small things, the delays in response, the absence when support was needed, the inconsistencies between what is said and what is done. It is through this reflection and careful observation that the truth emerges almost silently, without any dramatic confrontation or declaration. Allah allows these moments so that we can grow in wisdom, understanding, and patience, learning to rely on discernment rather than assumption, on actions rather than words, and on His guidance rather than our own desires to see what we wish to see. The process of observing and reflecting strengthens the heart, refines our judgment, and helps us identify not just the intentions of others, but also our own priorities, boundaries, and values. Through this practice, we are gently taught that discernment is not hasty, that clarity often comes gradually, and that by paying attention to the subtleties, we can protect ourselves from hurt, disappointment, and misplaced trust, while cultivating the patience and insight that will guide us to people, relationships, and circumstances that are truly aligned with our well-being and with Allah's wisdom. And so, as we reflect on all of this, we begin to understand that life has a way of revealing truth in the quietest of ways. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, allows us to see people as they truly are, not always through words or confrontation, but through silence, distance, actions, and the subtle patterns that emerge over time. He removes illusions at the perfect moment, guiding us toward clarity, peace, and protection, even when it feels painful or confusing. And in all of this, our responsibility is not to force understanding or to demand explanations that may never come, but to guard our hearts, preserve our peace, and trust in His timing. Letting go, stepping back, and observing with patience are not acts of weakness, they are acts of faith, gratitude, and wisdom. For when Allah shows us someone's true face, it is a gift, an opportunity to grow, to protect ourselves, and to place our trust where it truly belongs, in Him alone. And as we walk forward with this awareness, we do so with hearts that are stronger, clearer, and more attuned to what is real, valuable, and purposeful in our lives.